Ladies and gentlemen, life has a way of making us impatient. We chase opportunities, relationships, and success as if they are running away from us. The moment we see a door, we assume it's the right one, and we do everything in our power to get through it. We knock, we push, we shove, and when that doesn't work, we try to kick it down. But what if the reason the door isn't opening is that it was never meant for us in the first place? People often confuse persistence with force. They believe if they just try harder, if they just push more, then the door will eventually give in. The truth is, when something is meant for you, it doesn't require struggle in the way we imagine. Yes, hard work is necessary, and yes, challenges are inevitable, but the right door won't demand that you destroy yourself trying to enter. It won't leave you feeling drained, frustrated, or stuck in a cycle of constant resistance. We see this in all areas of life. Take relationships, for example. How often do people chase after someone who clearly isn't interested, pouring their time and energy into convincing another person to love them back? They send long messages, make grand gestures, and wait endlessly for a response that never comes or one that feels forced and hollow. But when the right person enters your life, you don't have to beg for their attention. You don't have to prove your worth or constantly question where you stand. The connection flows naturally, and the effort, while still present, doesn't feel like a battle. The same applies to careers. Many people spend years pursuing a job or a business venture that never seems to work out, no matter how much effort they put in. They send out countless applications, attend interviews that lead nowhere, and take rejection after rejection as a sign that they need to try even harder. But then, out of nowhere, an opportunity comes along that fits them perfectly. One where they don't have to twist themselves into someone they're not. They realize that the constant rejection wasn't failure. It was redirection. They were trying to enter doors that weren't meant for them, and every closed one was simply guiding them toward the right path. There's a difference between working hard for something and forcing something that isn't meant to be. Hard work is about dedication, persistence, and resilience, but it doesn't require you to compromise who you are or to exhaust yourself fighting against something that resists you at every turn. When you're aligned with the right path, the challenges you face feel different. They feel like growth, not punishment. The obstacles don't feel like endless roadblocks, but rather necessary steps in preparing you for what's ahead. People struggle with this concept because they fear missing out. They think if they don't fight for something now, they might never get another chance. This fear creates desperation, and desperation leads to poor choices. They settle for relationships that drain them, jobs that make them miserable, and paths that don't excite them, all because they think they have no other option. But when you trust that the right door will open at the right time, you stop settling for what isn't working. You stop forcing yourself into spaces that don't fit and start believing that something better is ahead. Think about artists, musicians, and writers who were rejected over and over before they finally found success. J.K. Rowling was rejected by multiple publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first television job because she was told she wasn't fit for television. If they had forced themselves into the wrong opportunities or settled for the first thing that came their way, they would have never reached their full potential. Their failures weren't dead ends, they were redirections. They were signs that the door they were trying to enter wasn't meant for them, and something greater was waiting. We've all had moments where we've tried to force something that wasn't working. Maybe it was a friendship that had run its course, a job that drained us, or an opportunity that looked good on paper but felt wrong in reality. Yet, we held on, believing that if we just tried a little harder, things would magically fall into place. But deep down, we knew the truth. We knew we were forcing something that wasn't meant for us. Yet we feared letting go, because uncertainty felt scarier than struggle. When you try to force open the wrong door, you delay what's actually meant for you. You waste time trying to fit into places that don't match your skills, values, or purpose. You miss the signs that are telling you to move on. The energy you spend pushing against a locked door could be used to prepare yourself for the right one. Life often feels like a waiting game. You work hard, you dream big, and you give your best effort. But sometimes, no matter what you do, things just don't seem to happen when you want them to. The job offer doesn't come through, the relationship you hoped for falls apart, the opportunity you were counting on disappears, and you're left wondering what went wrong. It's easy to believe that delays mean denial, that just because something hasn't happened yet, it never will. But that's not how life works. Timing plays a role in everything. And just because something isn't happening right now doesn't mean it isn't part of your future. People tend to measure their progress against artificial timelines. Society tells you that by a certain age you should have a degree, a stable career, a home, and a family. If you don't, you start feeling like you're behind, like you've somehow failed at life. You see others moving forward, achieving things you want, and you wonder why it isn't happening for you. But the reality is, everyone's journey is different. Some people get what they want early, while others take a different route. The worst mistake you can make is assuming that because something hasn't happened yet, it never will. Think about all the times in your life when you wanted something badly, only to later realize that if you had received it at that moment, you wouldn't have been ready for it. Maybe it was a job you weren't fully prepared for, a relationship that would have ended in disaster, or an opportunity that would have overwhelmed you. The delay wasn't a rejection. It was a form of protection. Sometimes life holds things back because you're not in the right place to receive them. Maybe you need to grow more, develop certain skills, or go through experiences that will prepare you for what's coming. People often mistake waiting for wasting time. But waiting isn't passive. It's an opportunity to prepare, to build, and to become the person who can handle what you're asking for. If you're asking for success, but haven't developed the discipline to sustain it, then success could become a burden rather than a blessing. If you're asking for love but haven't healed from past wounds, then even the right relationship could end up feeling wrong. The things you want require you to be ready for them. And sometimes, the delay is life's way of helping you become that person. Patience is one of the hardest things to practice, especially in a world that glorifies instant results. Social media makes it look like everyone else is achieving their dreams effortlessly. You see someone land their dream job, buy a house, travel the world, or find love, and you start questioning your own progress. But what you don't see is the years of struggle, the moments of doubt, and the countless failures they experienced before reaching that moment. Behind every success story is a journey that included waiting, setbacks, and lessons learned. Think about some of the most successful people in the world. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first television job and told she wasn't fit for television. If she had taken that as a sign that she wasn't meant to succeed, she would have never built the empire she has today. JK. Rowling was rejected by multiple publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. Imagine if she had given up after the first few rejections. The truth is, many of the greatest successes come after a period of delay, a time when nothing seems to be working, and doubts start creeping in. But those who push through, who trust the process, and who keep going despite the waiting, are the ones who eventually see their dreams become reality. There's also something to be said about doors that don't open at all. Sometimes what we think we want isn't actually what's best for us. You might be chasing an opportunity, a job, or a relationship that you believe is the key to your happiness, only to find that no matter how hard you try, it's just not working out. At first, it feels like failure, like life is against you. But later, when you've moved on to something better, you look back and realize that what you thought was a loss was actually a blessing in disguise. It's hard to see the bigger picture when you're in the middle of the struggle. When things aren't happening the way you want them to, it's easy to slip into frustration, doubt, and even bitterness. But if you step back and look at life as a journey rather than a race, you start to realize that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. The delays, the setbacks, and the closed doors are all part of a bigger plan. They are shaping you, strengthening you, and preparing you for the right moment. One of the most important things you can do during a delay is to shift your mindset. Instead of focusing on what hasn't happened yet, focus on what you can do right now. Maybe this is the time to build your skills, to invest in your personal growth, to strengthen your opportunities in life are not about luck alone. They are about preparation meeting the right moment. Many people believe that success comes down to being in the right place at the right time, but what they often overlook is that being in the right place is meaningless if you are not ready when the moment arrives. Opportunities don't knock just because you wish for them. They knock when you are prepared to answer. The problem is that most people spend their time waiting instead of preparing. They hope for a better job but don't improve their skills. They dream of a relationship but don't work on themselves. They want success but don't build the discipline required to sustain it. Then, when an opportunity finally arrives, they find themselves unprepared, unable to take full advantage of what has been given to them. There is a common misconception that the most successful people in the world simply got lucky. While luck may play a small role, preparation is what separates those who make the most of opportunities from those who miss them. Imagine two people who both get a chance to interview for their dream job. One has spent years refining their skills, learning about the industry, and developing the confidence to communicate their value. The other has simply hoped for the opportunity without doing the necessary work. When they both walk into the same room, one of them is ready while the other is not. The opportunity was the same, but the outcomes are completely different. Athletes understand this principle better than most. They train for years, pushing their bodies and minds beyond their limits, all for a few defining moments. A sprinter who competes in the Olympics has spent countless hours preparing for a race that lasts only seconds. If they were to slack off, thinking they could just show up on race day and perform at their best, they would lose before the race even began. The same applies to musicians, actors, entrepreneurs, and anyone who has ever achieved something great. What looks like an overnight success is usually years of unseen preparation finally meeting the right opportunity. Many people spend their time searching for the perfect opportunity, instead of working to become the kind of person who can handle the opportunities that will come their way. They complain that they aren't getting the big break they want, yet they fail to recognize that they haven't put in the effort to grow into the person who can thrive in that environment. Instead of focusing on when an opportunity will come, they should be focusing on whether or not they will be ready when it does. Imagine someone who dreams of becoming a best-selling author but never sits down to write. They say they are waiting for inspiration, for the right moment, or for the perfect idea. Years pass, and they wonder why they haven't been able to achieve their dream. Meanwhile, another aspiring author writes every single day, honing their craft, improving their storytelling, and learning from their mistakes. When a publisher finally comes looking for talent, guess who is ready? It's not about talent alone, it's about preparation and effort. The same is true in relationships. People often say they are waiting for the right person, but they haven't taken the time to become the right person themselves. They expect love to come easily, yet they haven't worked on their emotional intelligence, communication skills, or ability to handle conflict. They want a healthy, fulfilling relationship, but they have done nothing to prepare for it. When a great person finally enters their life, they may not be able to sustain the relationship because they lack the self-awareness and maturity required to make it work. The opportunity is there, but they aren't ready to hold on to it. This principle applies to every area of life. Someone may dream of being wealthy, but has never taken the time to learn about financial management. If they were handed $1 million today, they would likely lose it because they don't know how to manage it properly. Someone may dream of being a leader, but has never developed the patience, wisdom, and decision-making skills required to lead effectively. If they were suddenly put in charge of a team, they would struggle, not because they lack potential, but because they lacked preparation. The key is to stop waiting and start preparing. Instead of focusing on what hasn't happened yet, focus on what you can do right now. If you want to be a great speaker, start practicing your speeches. If you want to be a great artist, start creating. If you want to be in a strong relationship, work on yourself so that when the right person comes along, you are ready to give and receive love in a healthy way. Opportunities rarely come announced. They don't arrive with flashing lights and a sign that says, "This is your moment." They often come disguised as challenges, small chances that could lead to something bigger or unexpected turn. Timing is one of the most misunderstood aspects of success, happiness, and personal growth. People often believe that if something isn't happening according to their schedule, then it must not be meant for them. They look at the clock, compare their progress to others, and assume that they are behind. But the truth is, life doesn't operate on human-made timelines. The universe, God, or whatever higher power you believe in has its own way of unfolding events at the perfect moment. What feels like a delay is often divine timing at work, aligning things in ways that are beyond human understanding. Society conditions people to believe that milestones must be met at a certain age. There is an unspoken rule that by your 20s, you should have your career figured out. By your 30s, you should have a family and financial stability. By your 40s, you should be well established. When people don't meet these arbitrary deadlines, they begin to feel like failures. They compare themselves to their peers, forgetting that everyone's journey is unique. The truth is, there is no universal timeline for success, love, or fulfillment. Some people find their purpose early, while others discover it later in life. Some people achieve their dreams in their 20s, while others hit their peak in their 50s or 60s. The right things happen at the right time, not when society says they should. One of the biggest sources of stress and anxiety is the feeling of being behind. People rush into relationships because they think they should be married by a certain age. They accept jobs they don't love because they believe they should have a stable career by now. They pressure themselves into making decisions based on what the clock says, rather than what their heart says. But when you trust in divine timing, you stop chasing what isn't meant for you. You stop forcing things to happen on a schedule that isn't yours to control. You realize that just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it never will. It just means the timing isn't right, and something better may be in the works. Think about the moments in your life when things didn't go according to your plan, but ended up working out better than you imagined. Maybe you didn't get the job you wanted, only to land an even better opportunity later. Maybe a relationship ended, and at the time it felt like the worst thing in the world. But years later, you met someone who was truly right for you. Maybe you missed out on an opportunity, only to realize that if you had taken it, you wouldn't have been ready for it. In hindsight, so many things that felt like disappointments were actually blessings in disguise. There is a rhythm to life that can't be controlled by human impatience. Just as the seasons change when they are supposed to, events in life unfold when they are meant to. A flower doesn't bloom before its time, and a tree doesn't grow overnight. Everything in nature follows a process, and humans are no different. Some things take time to develop, and trying to rush them only leads to frustration. When people force things before their time, they often find themselves overwhelmed, unprepared, or in situations that don't feel right. People often mistake waiting for doing nothing, but waiting isn't passive. It's a period of preparation. When something isn't happening yet, it's because there is something you need to learn, experience, or grow into before you're ready for it. If you trust the process, you use this time wisely. Instead of complaining about delays, you focus on self-improvement. Instead of feeling stuck, you work on becoming the best version of yourself, so that when the right moment comes, you are ready. It's easy to look at other people's lives and assume that they have it all figured out. Social media makes it seem like everyone else is achieving their dreams effortlessly while you are still struggling. But what you see is just the highlight reel, not the full story. Every successful person has experienced moments of doubt, setbacks, and long periods of waiting. They just don't broadcast those moments. What looks like an overnight success is usually the result of years of effort, perseverance, and trust in the right timing. People who rush into things often find themselves in situations that aren't meant for them. Someone who forces a career path they don't love may wake up one day feeling unfulfilled. Someone who gets into a relationship out of fear of being alone may later realize they settled for the wrong person. When you trust divine timing, you allow things to unfold naturally. You don't chase. You align yourself with what is meant for you. You focus on growth, and when the right opportunity, person, or situation comes, you recognize it instantly because you are truly ready for it. The concept of divine timing doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you take action, but you also have patience.